Good morning. I'm Ladina Boo again from Stockton, Missouri. And our guest, Jared Dietz, has joined us once again. We started on his testimony last week and what he's gone through in life with drug addictions and jail and halfway houses and everything. Um, as I told you last week, Jared had a really bad accident at one point, and so sometimes he gets a little off kilter there, but I'm sure you can all get through his testimony without any issues. He's going to start today by telling us about the accident itself, and we touched on it briefly last week, and so we're going to pick up there, and then we'll continue on from that point. So, what do you want to tell us about your accident, Jared?
Okay, so probably the hardest thing with accidents is it takes everything out of your hand. You find yourself often put in a situation where you have no real out, if I could put it that way. But the accident itself was pretty significant. I got hit at 100 miles an hour by a drunk driver, of course. So um, I thought when I would do the legal thing and pass him, legally and correctly and follow all the, rules and regulations of the road, that it would be a smart move. Well, turns out it wasn't so smart. In the end, it positioned me where it put me ahead of him, which is what actually led to the accident, because then he, you know, naturally being drunk, decided that it wasn't okay that I passed him, and he decided to catch up to me and hit me at 100 miles an hour, which, God told me that day that if it was not for his intervention, I would have been killed that day. So I do know that he saved me from the accident for a purpose. And after the accident, that's kind of what really snowballed the drug addiction, everything else. It kicked the pain off, and once you hit a level of pain that I was in, it was just a snowball effect. It was just a matter of time before I naturally became a drug addict. But
Well, you'd been taking pain medications prescribed by the physicians, correct?
well, they tried it, but remember that goes back to the DNA results 10 years later that prove I really couldn't be, pills were not doing it. I
Mm-hmm.
was just too resistant to the effects of drugs, which is kind of ironic because even meth is a drug, but it was just, there's something in, I don't remember what they said it was, the doctor said, but there's something was in meth that was not in any other drug, that it worked with my system, with my handicap, and my new handicap, and that's what actually, it was the only one. So,
Mm-hmm.
which actually kicked the whole entire habit off and kicked all my problems off in life. I spent the better part of 20 years, almost 20 years, I want to say about 17 years, fighting this monster, living life where I didn't have a memory for almost 20 years. The devil took my memory because of that accident. And once he took the memory, it became a daily struggle just to live life when you have to write everything down. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know your birth date. You don't know your information. You're so forgetful of every little thing, and and you have no sense of timeline, no sense of memory of what you know. Some events I did remember, and they were so far back. It was like going back in my life, like 30, 40 years, 30 something years. And then, I could remember something way back when it was like when I was a kid or something,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe 8 years old or 10 years old. And then there was a humongous gap of just all this missing information, not knowing, you know, everything just not there. You can't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Have to have people who remember things for me.
Yeah, I've
And
gone through that with a few people. They couldn't remember, and you'd have to remind them of what had happened. It's very frustrating for someone, I'm sure.
It's very frustrating. Also, when you're getting your memory back too, people always go, "Well, can't you remember that, or why don't you know this information?" Like, like one of my bigger struggles is I'm always having to relearn my Bible, so it's a constant process of I'm always training myself and retraining myself and refreshing my memory, and it's endless. Every time I put it in, it gets pushed out. Every time I put it in, it gets pushed out. Oops,
Whoops.
oopsie, malfunction there. And then you get in the point where it tires you. It really does. You get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and just you put the information in and it pushes it out, and it's not really anything you control. It's a memory problem, and
It
got
keeps you in the book all the time.
it does keep you in the Bible all the time, but then you. So I've learned this over the really hard truth of looking at my Bible is God is slowly, because He's fixed my memory. Slowly, things are coming back to the surface, and it's taken a long time. But slowly, I'm noticing I'll remember certain passages, but it's took so long and so much struggle to put all that information in there so many times that it's something's finally sticking. And I know of one day there's going to come a point where my memory is going to be, it'll never be the same, because it can't be. A vessel broken, repaired vessel can never be exactly the way it was before it was broken. But I know that I can get, most of the restoration and most of my memory back. It's just, I know God's already done it. It's just a matter of seeing the fruit of what He's
Yeah.
done to
Let him
start
go
manifesting itself. So
Yeah, he's rerouting all that so
it's
that.
rerouting, and it takes time. You know, all your blessings from God always take time.
Mhm.
And so I've struggled a long time, because it's hard not to hate somebody for something that's happened to you.
Mhm.
But because if you look at it, if it was not for that one moment, I would have never became a drug addict. Probably,
Yeah.
I would have never, lost my casino job. I would have never lost my income. I would have perfectly been just able to go through life and keep building where I was. And
Mhm.
then in one moment, it was ripped out of my hands.
No, it's hard to get past something like that, but you're
Yeah.
doing well at it. I'm really quite proud of you. Now, he wanted to touch on his accident and what had happened there, and he mentioned last week it was actually a physician that had said that he should try meth because it would help him with his pain levels since he's so resistant to pain medications.
Yep.
So that's where the addiction started. And unfortunately, while you can, they know what this does to your body and so forth, and some people are just resistant to every pain medication you come up. And I've got other friends who are resistant to every antibiotic they come up with and so forth. So, those are things that just started. But anyway, as we said last week, your house where you were at got raided. The Lord told you they were going to raid it at 9 o'clock, and He
Oh, they
did.
did. 9 p.m. on the dot. Still remember those white eyes.
Uh-huh.
Can't get rid of that white eye, and realizing it was 9 p.m. And I was like, oh, it was 9 p.m.
We're all going to jail now.
Going to jail. Just a quick remember. Oh yeah, now I'm headed to jail. That's right. Remember exactly everything. All floods back in. That's what God said. 9 p.m. And so
that put you in jail, and then it put you to trying to find a program to go into, and you found.
and God closed every door except for that Hope Home of the Ozarks with Freedom City Church.
Mhm. And then you went to church that first time, and there was the woman of your dreams, the wife you now have, and she had your daughter with her, didn't she? That
Yep,
day.
yep. She added our daughter with us, and it was a beautiful moment of restoration that took it took years in the making, all throughout my, addiction. At some point, I realized that the addiction became really my fault, that I was still in addiction. But of course, the start of the addiction, as we've already discovered, wasn't my fault, but I allowed it to continue, and then eventually it became my fault, because really I had the power to stop.
Mhm.
But
But,
um,
but the Lord put you two together at church that day. So
put us
what?
together at that church that day, and that was the start of the whole process. I stayed in the home at Hope Home of the Ozarks. I stayed working the program up until the meth fire. Imagine that. A meth fire is what uh, caused the caused me to leave the home and move in with my daughter and the mother. Make sure that if there ever was a fire again, that I would be there to be able to help get them out, because with her handicaps, she really she would have not made it if it wasn't for the Lord helping her. That was a miracle straight from God. So we knew the event couldn't happen again, because don't test God. You
Hmm.
just so After much prayer, we decided that with God's okay, that it would be all right that I exit the program, and I did. And um, it God completely blessed that entire process. That process was completely from God and blessed, and then that led to our complete restoration of our family. We moved into what was that? John B. Hughes, and we started rebuilding our life there. And my wife works part time because of her feet problem. I don't know what they call it. It's a really hard name to pronounce, but she has a feet problem, and she's limited to only working part time. And so that puts most of the strain on me, of course, from a financial aspect. So I have to do a lot of caring for her, a lot of bearing the weight of the working, the extra hours I have to work to try to balance everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Your daughter's at least getting up. What? She's 7 now, I think you said.
She'll be 7 in a couple months here.
Yeah. And so, I'm sure it was very difficult for your wife having to carry a baby around and so forth and trying to take care of a baby by herself there for a few years.
Oh yeah, there was that. That was a whole entire process that I regret every day that I was not there for that process, because that put a lot of pressure and stress on her, and put her through things she shouldn't have been going through. But once you get stuck in those drugs, man, they just once they take you, they take you.
Hmm.
But I should have pulled myself out of that process. I really should have. So
So you really detoxed in jail,
I
right?
did. It was where I detoxed. That's where God got a hold of me. So that's where I always tell anybody who's ever listening, if you're facing a similar situation with a friend, a loved one, you don't know what is in their best interest. Their best interest is truly to let them go to jail, or arrange it so that they have no support from you.
Hmm.
Killing the support is what kills the process of drug addiction, because then it forces them to, as you cut off every resource, it forces them to eventually come to a process where there God will then intervene, and then boom, you position them so that they can get help.
Yeah.
When you enable the process, you're just letting it go. Every time you help them, you're just keeping them in addiction.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what happened to me. The moment they cut off the support, the moment I started losing the support, it became, eventually, it took about a year and a half, but it did happen, where I had I had been pushed because I didn't have the support of the family. I didn't have all the support. I didn't have all the money, or the home, or the other things that you need to support drug addiction. once you take all that away, it forces you into a process where eventually you'll deal with either choosing to do something worse, or you get better and you get out of your drug addiction, but you never get to that point without somebody cutting you off.
Mhm.
You have to be cut off.
That's a hard thing for families to do.
It is.
Cut off a child.
It's very hard, but it's the best decision you can make, because once you cut off their income and their sources of resources, it forces them to
Mhm.
change things.
Yeah, well, I've had to do that with a few people in my life. Now I've had 90 kids living with me over the years, and it get to the point where it's like, no, can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, and I don't intend to put you out on the street. But if you can't follow my
But
house rules, you're
you
going to have to
have
go to
to.
the street.
You have to anyway. I mean, it's just a part of the process, because they'll never turn to God, or they'll never turn to something that resolves a situation with your support.
Mhm.
They'll never do it, because
Yep.
as long as they're getting their needs met, they don't have to turn to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just reality.
Yep. And I've always figured that if I had to, cut somebody off in that fashion, I knew they were going to go to jail. Sooner or later, they were going to go to jail. And
Jail's
they
the
did.
best. Jail is truly the best thing for you. Jail is really the best thing. When you're stuck in a process, you need to separate yourself, and the only way you can do that is jail.
Mhm.
Because most people don't have the power to lay down the dope, or the lay down the crack pipe, or or the heroin or whatever. And I've tried them all, and um, you get stuck in that process, and you'll never lay it down without somebody forcing it. So
Mhm.
oftentimes the only way to force it is going to a place where it is forced, and that's jail, where you can't. I mean, you can get drugs in jail, but it's you got to have some money and some resources to get drugs in there. But it's going to be really hard to keep an addiction going from jail.
Mhm.
So then that leaves you only one choice. You have to deal with your problem.
Mhm.
That means facing your giant. So as long as you can face your giant, you'll get through. Excuse me. You'll get through the process.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember people telling me how evil I was because I wouldn't go bail somebody out of jail, and it's like, no, that's okay. They know they got there, and
What's truly evil is keeping a person in their process of that's damaging their life. Keeping
Mhm.
them in that process is what's evil.
Yeah.
It's not keeping them in jail. That's the best thing. What hurts them the most is in enabling the addiction and saying that you love them. Can't love somebody while you're watching them destroy their life.
Mhm.
That's just reality.
And I tell them I love them to pieces, but I can't get them out.
Yeah.
They got themselves in jail. They'll have to figure it out.
Really, they have to come to God, or they have to come to some reasonable, outcome that says, that provides a solution. And usually it's God, but you can't get them to that process by continuing to help them.
Mhm.
You have to cut them off. I guess you could call it a necessary evil.
I had a friend who used to live with me for about 5 years, and she was never a fan of dogs, and she'd always say, well, she loved my dogs. She really did, but she said, I love them over there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I was with a couple of people in my life. It's like, I love you dearly, and I know you're sitting in jail and it's not fun, but I love you over there because you cannot maintain and function out here with me.
Exactly.
You know,
What's good about watching a person who trying to kill themselves, or take such a big hit of a drug that it will kill them, or is going to kill them, and then sit back and try to say that you love them
hmm
while you're watching them try to kill themselves. Not
yeah,
intentionally, but eventually it's just a reality. They're gonna position themselves if they continue to use. That's the end result.
yeah,
It's going to be drug killing them. Somebody else or some process is going to kill them, and it all stems from that drug
yeah.
and that addiction.
And that addiction could be alcohol, illegal drugs,
Yep,
it could be
alcohol.
prescription drugs,
It could.
whatever the case may be.
It doesn't have to be illegal to hurt you or kill you.
You've got to be able to um, bring yourself around to the point where you can seek that help you need and get yourself out of that.
And that'll truly never happen as long as somebody is like your family is helping you or a loved one is helping you stay in addiction. It's not going to bring you to that place.
Hmm.
The only way to get to that place is you first have to be cut off.
Yep. I used to bail people out of jail all the time. And then it got to the point where it's like, no, I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it. I'm sorry. I told you that was your last round.
Yeah.
You know?
My mom spent endless amounts of money giving me money, knowing that I was on drug addiction, trying to help me. And really, all it did was just feed the problem.
Hmm.
But once you starve the problem, which is there's that spiritual principle. If you feed the right thing, you kill the other thing automatically. So if you feed positioning somebody where you feed them to deal with their drug addiction or something, you starve their drug addiction, then they have no choice but to come to the only other choice is no drugs or drugs.
Hmm.
You starve one process, you enable the other process to happen.
Hmm.
So if you want to get somebody off drugs, you starve that drug habit.
Yeah.
And the only way you starve that is by telling them no, you're not going to help them.
Hmm.
It takes a real strong person to say, hey, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to love you as I help you through your problem, but I'm not going to enable your problem.
Hmm.
And if people realize that, there'd be far less drug addictions and far less chaos in this world because people will realize all we have to do to kill this problem is stop feeding the drug habit.
Hmm.
If you enable it, you're just making it so that they continue day by day drug addiction, and they're not going to get out of that process by your hopes and your best dreams.
Yeah.
The only way out of that process is you have to starve it.
Yeah. And, they get so many people around them in the same addiction and so forth. You've got to try to get away from those type of people. And jail's a really good place for it. Okay. I hate to see anybody go to jail, but if you're in a drug addiction and you've been caught and you get in there and you go through all the detox and stuff while you're sitting in jail, don't go back to it.
Exactly.
You know?
So many people come out of jail and they choose to go back into it because you know what, they reassociate themselves with everything that you know as I say, when you're, especially when you're in drug addiction, you'll always surround yourself with the people that A, feed your drug habit, or B, where you get your drugs, or C, the people that help you bring in by other means your drug habit. The end result is there's always somebody feeding you something that you need to keep your habit going, whether it's drugs, money, place to stay, food. You're pulling only those people around you that provide for you. So that also includes the bad people, the criminals, and not criminals doesn't mean you're bad, but uh, like the people who supply your drugs, the people who supply you with, oftentimes you'll team up with somebody to go get, some thing like steal something or something that allows you to go buy drugs. And so you will always surround yourself with somebody who helps you in one way or another. You get to the same process. You're getting what you want. And you'll only surround yourself with those people who help you get what you want. And so how you change that is you put them in jail so that they can, detox, get clean, and hopefully find God in there and then come out and hope. And then if it's genuine, they'll come out with God still with them. If it's not genuine and they're just, what they call a Christian in jail, which is basically just a person who has faith while they're in jail, but the moment they get out of jail, they lose their faith. We could just call that a jailhouse Christian. If it's genuine, it'll follow you, and that's the whole point. Is you just want to keep putting them in jail until it sticks.
Yeah.
Eventually, it'll stick.
Because I had that conversation with a few drug addicts over the years, and it's like, I'm sorry you're in this addiction. I hate seeing you there. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting the people around you. But you're not going to break this when you turn around and you go back to the same people you were doing drugs with before.
Yep.
Change your environment, change your people.
You truly have to change your whole entire friend list because you are always positioning yourself with those people who would help you get your drugs and get what you need. So the only way to starve that is to get them out of your life.
Hmm.
And so then it becomes changing who you surround yourself. So there's always a spiritual principle I look at when I'm deciding who I want to be friends with and who I draw from in my life. I look at their life so that I can determine who they are now, because who they are now points to me and tells me who I'm going to become. Because, the 5 people you spend the most time around are the 5 people your life is going to resemble. You're just going to, it's a process you go through. And eventually, those top 5 friends are what you're going to look like years down the road. So I always surround myself as much as I can with those people who I want to become.
Hmm.
And I starve out anybody who doesn't meet that qualification. If you don't meet certain parameters, you're not going to be in my life because I can't let you affect my life.
I can love you from a distance. I can pray for
Exactly.
you,
Exactly.
and I can hope that you find your way out of this. But I can't have you close to me because I don't
Exactly.
want it rubbing off. And it will.
And it
You don't
will.
think about it, but
It
it
will.
will. You try doing things the way they do it,
Yeah.
and
And you'll always be influenced by your 5 most closest friends. So that's a reality, is who you put in your life is who you will become. So the only way to combat that is you have to become more selective of who your friends are.
mhm. You have to think about your own eternity, and your own family, and you've got a wife and a daughter, and you're going to school and everything, and that's probably a 180-degree turn from the people you were communicating with, and
Yep, used to be drug addicts, criminals, prison,
homeless.
homeless,
And
murderers.
I don't have a problem with any of these people.
Neither
As
do I. As long
I
as you,
I can talk to you, I can love you, and if you want to find a better way, I'll take your hand. I'll walk with you however we need to walk,
I always say I'll jump in the fire with you, but I will do everything I can to help you. But what I won't do is I won't jump in and actually do what you're doing, but I will help bring you out of where you are,
Hmm.
even if I have to jump in the fire with you. Just like the Bible verse, I will jump in the fire for anybody, but
Hmm.
I won't let them affect my life in a way that negatively impacts my life. I won't start becoming them, but I'll help bring you where you need to be.
Yeah, kind of like Christ going into the fiery furnace with Asher, Meshach, and
Yep,
Abednego.
Brett.
You know,
That's what I'm saying. I will jump in the fire for anybody, but I won't. What I won't do is I won't let you affect my life to the point where you destroy my life.
hmm I found it helpful. Why people come out and they want to change, and it's like I'll walk with you any day of the week. I'll go to every court appearance you have to go to,
Exactly.
whatever it may take. But you have to get past the drugs because I will not help you if you're going to keep
Hmm.
slipping down this same slippery slope.
And there's so many trials and so many things. Life is just an endless amount of trials,
Hmm.
and so as I've been telling you lately, my latest trial has been my financial situation.
Hmm.
We are still about $20,000 in debt, and I can't get out of that process.
Yeah.
And that's actually becoming one of the more hardest processes is to deal with, because debt destroys everything. It does.
It destroys families, and
It
it
does.
does. It's
We are
hard.
we are fighting it, and we are fighting it. I am, I'm putting in all the max hours I can at work, and I am doing everything I can, and tithing my offering, doing it, planting seeds, planting seed, if you know what that is, I'm sure.
Hmm.
I'm doing everything I can, and I stuck in this process, and I can't get out. And it's killing me more now then when I look back at all this drug addiction and everything else, I'm struggling harder financially in debt than I am when I was a drug addict. I find it harder to fight a money problem is harder than it is to fight a drug addiction for me.
Yeah.
It's my biggest mountain right now.
Yeah. Well, I think Satan tries to throw those things in front of you because, you knew how to make good, big money before, when you were dealing with drugs and stuff, but you can't fall back into that. You can't, and this is a process to try to knock you back down again.
Yeah.
But you're still going to school and you're still working. You and your wife are together and your daughter, and
Yeah. I graduate Evangel University this fall. So I will become officially a pastor after I get licensed.
mhm.
But God, I was going to get licensed, and God told me don't get licensed yet because because of my memory problem, I can't remember the 16 fundamental truths. It's impossible.
Well,
It's not something I can conquer. And as
you
much
will
as
one day.
well, the way that I'm going to conquer it is there's a process you can go through, and all I have to do is get any kind of documentation that says I have a memory impairment or a problem due to a traumatic experience like my accident. Get proof that I can't remember things,
Mhm.
uh, or that I struggle in any way I struggle with it. Then I can go submit that to Assembly of God, Southern District, and I can actually bypass the requirement to remember the 16 fundamental truths and some other testing stuff.
Uh-huh.
I'll be able to bypass that, and I can get licensed.
Well, that'd be wonderful. And you want to continue in ministry through life, don't you?
God has something big for me in life, and I don't yet know what that is. He hasn't revealed it, but I do know that he's told me enough to I know that I'm facing something in my ministry is going to be huge, and I don't
Mhm.
know what it is,
Well,
but I'm
I'm praying it all comes to fruition, and I'm
it
sure it
will.
will. It will sooner or later, and we just have to trust the process.
Yeah,
You know.
I'm it's just like my financial problems right now. I know God has a solution. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know when it's coming. I just know it's coming.
Yeah.
I've got my word on it, so now I'm just sitting back waiting to see what God's going to do.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And
And,
the same with ministry. I'm stuck right now where I'm just waiting to see what he does.
mhm.
And so they're all processes. You just take them as best as you can and do the best you can with them. It sucks, it truly does, but it's part of life. If you can't let every trial tear you down, you just
No.
have to look for God in that's why the Bible tells you to pray without ceasing and to truly seek God, because it's a relationship thing. You have to seek him in order for him to bring you out of these things. And that's one thing that's really been getting me lately is getting more in a process of when you get in a problem, don't shy away from God, but come closer and press in with God so that he can actually work in your life. And I'm starting to really dig in really hard to um, I'm planning to stay there. I mean, I do all this extra time praying and seeking God and doing all these things because I want to see God and move in my life, and I'll never do that by sitting there, stagnant, not praying, not doing things. I have to get in
Worrying
it.
about the next bill that's coming
Yep,
through
that's literally what's
the.
happening right now. I mean, I I don't know, where I sit financially. I mean, I'm so far in debt. I don't know how the bills are even going to get paid this month, but I know somehow it's going to happen. God's going to send me the money.
That's the thing I found through the years. I raised two children by myself, besides the 90 children that they brought into my home.
Yeah.
And I get to the point where it's like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. I don't know how I'm going to feed
I
all
know.
these kids and so on and so forth.
It's
But no matter what, I knew that something would happen and I would be fine. And every time something came through, The Lord provided me in numerous ways, and people think I'm a little crazy because it's like you need to pray about it, you need to go to church, you need to have some fellowship,
Done
come
all
on
that.
over to
Yep.
the house,
Yep.
whatever the case may be. Let's sit down and talk at it. I'll sit down and work out a budget with them if I need to. But I always knew that God was going to bring me out the other side.
Well, people always peddle the easy answer, but when you really dig into the problem, it's not no easy answer because
Right.
like myself, I've done all that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've dug in the process. I've got, things at home. Everything's wrote out. I've got budgets. I got everything. And, I've done all the praying, done all the seeking God. And you know what? Right now, it hasn't happened. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. God's going to move and fix the finances. But, the easy answer somebody tries to peddle to you is often not the easy answer because there's no
Right.
easy answer.
No, you can't sit back and expect God to fix everything in your life and send you down $1,000 a week so you can get through. There is a process. You have to work yourself. You have to study. You have to work. You have to, find all your options in life. And then, there's always a way.
God will bring that way about, but I don't know how or when. I just trust that it will happen,
Mm-hmm.
and it will. But it's a process. The
Mm-hmm.
same with the accident. I didn't get healed from the accident, you know, until almost 20 years later. It was so now that I'm facing, the financial monster that I'm facing, there's always somebody who has the power to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then oftentimes like with God could, do a miracle. He could write me a check to cover
Right.
and send it from somebody to cover every single debt that I have and then some, but it doesn't per se help me through my process.
Right.
It's a quick instant answer, and oftentimes that's not the answer you need.
No, I think God tries to train us
Yeah.
that way. We
This
may
is
have
training.
a hard situation, but life is never easy. No
No.
matter what you're doing, life is never easy. But you have to trust and maintain your faith and keep yourself, in that position to where you can receive what He will supply.
Yeah. And so, but I have got my word confirmed that he is going to fix a financial problem. So I know that the answer is coming soon. So I'm thankful for that. I don't know where it's coming from. I just know it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
God's already confirmed that more than once through multiple sources. So that's the great thing is I know the answer is coming. I'm finally thankful that I know soon I will be out of this part of the process because I'm sick of this process. It's, money truly drives you to a point where you're just like, it destroys everything. And I find it harder to fight that than fighting drug addiction and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Those things were hard, but not as hard as what I'm facing now.
Yeah, well, you're walking a different path these days, so
Yeah.
you got to be trained different things, and when you're walking a different path.
Exactly, and it's a whole process with God, and it'll work out. And his whatever he does, I just sit back and trust, and I look to him for the answer.
Yeah, well, we're running down on our time here. Now, I was going to say something there, and it just went poof, right.
Story of my life.
Yeah, I have that issue too on occasion, But anyway, you and your wife both walk with the Lord these days.
Yes, we are. I'm close to getting my degree, and she's working on hers. So
What's she going to school for?
Like a psychology type thing. But so the Lord plans to have her start working, where she can counsel people and, from, whether it be drug addiction, homelessness, prison, whatever that looks like, whatever people, she's going to be a counselor. So it's something she can do that won't affect her feet because she can sit and, do her job, basically sitting and just counsel people.
So, it really comes down to trusting in the Lord is not going to make your life perfect. Okay.
No, it never will.
It never will. We all have to learn. We all have to get through life. But if you still trust in that process and you stay away from your addictions and so forth, there is the Lord will bring you through no matter what hits you,
Yeah,
right?
stay grounded in the word, because that's what is going to keep you in your process and keep you building up. When you shy away from your process, it's moving away from God and saying, I'm facing this problem or challenge. It's so great that I've took my eyes off of you. And
Hmm.
that's something I've really been challenging myself on, because I took my eyes off God. As soon as I saw my financial problem, I said, I took my eyes off of God. And then God finally got me back and said, hey, you took your eyes off me. This is why you're having these problems.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that you'll find a way out of it. And I trust in the fact that the Lord has brought you through your addictions and
Yeah.
restored your family. And
Restoration's
so
beautiful. It
we
is
should all,
beautiful.
it is. So anyway, we thank you for being with us this week. I want to reiterate a warning I put out last week. A couple of young men, they were in their 20s in Kansas City, Missouri, had died in the last few weeks. And they died because they purchased marijuana that was laced with fentanyl. And I want everybody to be aware of what's going on. Want to smoke your pot, you need to be careful where you're getting it. If you don't know where you're getting it, don't buy it.
Just
Not
not the, it's not even that. It's also every single drug is now being laced with so many powerful things that most of it's fentanyl. Most of them are becoming laced with fentanyl. You just can't, excuse me, you can't trust you can't trust what you're getting on the street. You can't trust that no more. You have to get yourself out of addiction, because truly we're hitting a point with drugs where it's literally going to kill you, and there ain't
mhm,
nothing you can do about it because of how dangerous they're
right.
now making these drugs. It's worse than ever.
So, anyway, we hope you have a blessed week this week, and we'll see you next week.